Okay, let's go. So, you said
Whoa. Hi,
yeah.
welcome to our podcast.
Oh, hi.
Maybe we should introduce who we are. Maybe we should say something to start our podcast. Hi, I'm Catherine.
I'm Rosie, and this is 26 to Life.
The podcast where Rosie Posey and I tell each other UK true crime stories. Often we forget what we're doing, as you just witnessed. Rosie's really eager to get started, so please go and follow us on TikTok and Instagram at 26tolife_pod, and please subscribe to our YouTube and Spotify channels, which is 26 to Life Pod. Before we get started, all of our podcast episodes contain difficult topics. Today will also be difficult because it includes murder. Murder.
Hints on suicide. Yeah.
Do you mean suicidal ideation?
No. Suicidal.
What do you mean, hints on suicide?
What does that mean?
Suicidal ideation is when somebody talks about wanting to commit suicide or has.
No, it's just that somebody died and they don't know whether or not it was suicide.
Oh, okay. So discussions around suicide.
Discussions
Hints on suicide.
It hints at it, you know? You know?
Yeah. Googling, everywhere we're Googling. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, are you ready?
Yeah, do I need to have anything up? Am I reading anything, looking at anything?
No, absolutely nothing, actually.
Right.
Okay, so at 5 p.m. on Monday, 23rd of August 2010, a local police officer named John Gallagher was patrolling around Pimlico. You know Pimlico in London?
Yeah.
It's in London. It's central London. It's like a nice area of town, right next to like Belgravia. Is that how you say it? Belgravia?
Belgravia.
Yeah, and Chelsea and all that kind of area. It's a warm summer evening.
Love it.
And people are just finishing work. It's like 5 p.m, like I said. So it's slightly busy. People are getting off the tubes. There's loads of offices nearby. So people were like milling around the streets. But as he's strolling along, he's just doing his normal. John Gallagher.
Oh, sorry.
As he's strolling along doing his patrol, he gets a call to do a check on a local resident. He's told that Gareth Williams is 31 years old and he hasn't shown up to work. No one's heard from him in about 8 days. Now, I've seen different reports on this that say between 8 and 10 days, but 8 is the most common report that I've seen. He's also told that he works for MI6. Dun dun dun. Yeah, it gets serious. Which I mean, we'll come back to it later, but like, if you work for MI6 and you haven't shown up to work for 8 days, you would think that, I mean,
any job
because
you don't show up for 8 days.
Yeah, because of the nature of the work, like, you would think that it would have been more important that he hadn't been to work. I don't know. Anyway, John goes to ring the buzzer.
You'd think that they would do a welfare check a lot quicker, but I would say that in most professions,
well, yeah,
past 3 days, you're like,
without hearing from them. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
They've not called in sick. They've not. Weird.
Yeah, very weird. So John Gallagher, the police officer, goes to ring the buzzer to Gareth's apartment, and he doesn't get any response. So he does his due diligence and he calls the letting agent to get the key to the building, which, I mean, he could have so easily walked away, which I feel like you hear a lot in some of these stories. So, yeah, good on John.
Answer, must be alive.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's the kind of thing that people actually assume is stupid. So he calls the letting agent, gets the key, and he lets himself into his flat. And the first thing he notices is that it's bloody hot. Like, and not just heat of the summer kind of hot. The heating is on full blast.
Blaring.
Yeah, it's on, and he was like, this is weird. It's the height of summer. All of the windows are shut, all of the curtains are shut. Go on.
Question about entering a home.
Mm-hmm.
Is he allowed because it's like a welfare check, or do you know what I mean? I didn't think that would be, or is he allowed because the letting agent has given him permission, and that's technically, I don't know. I'm just trying to think.
I mean, I think a bit of both, and also because it was perhaps it is also because he's MI6. Like, I'm not sure what the grounds surrounding that was.
I'm gonna research that later.
Oh, are you now?
Just to know, like, on what, under what pretense are you allowed to enter someone's home? So,
because I know,
if, for example, you rent a home and the landlord lets you in, there's still, I don't know, there's just got to be rules about police just going in.
Yeah,
not that I'm saying a bad thing, but
I know for sure that obviously if they knocked on the door and you didn't answer, but then they looked through the window and they saw blood or they saw a struggle, then they would,
100%.
then they could go in.
Probable cause,
but
or whatever.
But I don't know what the situation was now, whether or not it was just because he was MI6 and MI6 gave him permission, or if the letting agent gave permission, or what.
Or you've been missing for 8 days, this is enough of a worry that we can now enter to check you're okay.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And at the end of the day, even if Gareth Williams was sitting on his sofa watching a movie and this guy walked in, the policeman would have just been like, oh, I'm really sorry, but people are worried about you. Like, you wouldn't be mad about it, would you? You wouldn't say, what the fuck are you doing in my house? You would be like, oh, really? Sorry, I didn't hear the door. Like, I don't know.
You wouldn't be surprised. You've not called anyone for
8 days. Well, yeah, exactly. And you're sitting on the...
Sorry, you were reconnecting for a second. Yeah. Yeah, okay. All right. Just that's it. I'm now quiet again.
Yeah, sure. We'll see how long that lasts. The curtains are drawn. The windows are closed. And the whole flat is, like, absolutely spotless. Like, not just clean, spotless. This guy's, like, looks like a clean freak. Nothing like our houses.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The only thing that looks out of place is the fact that there's an orange woman's wig hanging on the back of one of the dining room chairs. But other than that, there's nothing out of place. Nothing that kind of fits with that. So it was a bit weird. But he didn't think anything of it.
Weird that they're calling it orange as well. It's not like a natural ginger.
It kind of they said that it looks like almost something that you'd wear as like a fancy dress kind of wig.
Yeah.
You know, so
Joker kind of.
Yeah, exactly. So this fancy flat, is on 2 levels. So he clears the bottom floor first, and nothing seems out of place other than that wig, like I said. And upstairs is equally as spotless. So he goes into the master bedroom, and there's a crumpled bathrobe on the floor by the door of the ensuite bathroom. So it almost just looks like you've just taken your bathrobe off as you're about to go into the bathroom to get in the shower. You know, you just drop it on the floor. Go on.
What's the difference between a bathrobe and a dressing gown? Or do you just call a dressing gown a bathrobe? I've never heard you call it a bathrobe.
I think it is exactly the same thing. In this scenario, it is the same thing to me. I'm not thinking of anything else.
Is it because it's toweling, maybe?
Yeah,
perhaps. You get out of the bath. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Carry on.
But almost as if someone has taken it off before getting into the shower. So he goes into the ensuite bathroom, and the bathroom layout is such that so if you're walking into the door, the toilet and the sink are right in front of you, and as you open the door, and then the bath is along the wall on the right hand side, so you can see everything as you're walking in. You know, the door isn't restricting any of the view.
Your wall is here on your left. Sink, toilet, bath. I'm with you.
Yes, exactly. So you can see the whole bathroom at first glance immediately. And the first thing he notices is that at first glance he notices that there are 0 toiletries in this bathroom, like absolutely nothing. And secondly, there's a red North Face holdall in the bathtub. This is like quite a big holdall. And it looks to be filled, like quite tightly packed. And the 2 zips pulled together and looped together with a padlock. So you know how you do that on your suitcases? You put like a little padlock through the thing. So you can.
I love those North Face bags.
Oh, me too. And then, so yeah, if you were to pull one, the other one pulls with it, and so nothing's going to open. So as well as that, the Velcro handle on the handle, you know, you can Velcro the handles together. That's also done up. Go on.
Can I just ask, at this point, is it still just John?
Yeah, it's just
Is
John.
his name John?
Yeah.
It's just John, yeah, just John Gallagher. No, he hasn't got any backup with him. It's just him walking around.
It's just him
like,
doing his welfare check. Yeah,
He's not really thinking anything of it at the minute. Okay.
Yeah,
right,
he's probably thinking, oh, this bag's here. I wonder if it's like, I don't know, he's packed his bag getting ready to leave.
To leave, yeah.
Exactly. Not sure why it would be in the bathtub, but anyway.
I'd be like, please be money, please be money, please be money. There's no one here, please be money.
Imagine. So he's curious, so he grabs the handles and he tries to lift it just to get like an idea of what could be inside. You know, give it a little bit of a shake. But it's bloody heavy.
Don't do that, John.
It's bloody heavy and he can't lift it more than a few inches. But as he lifts it, some red liquid starts dripping. Some red liquid drips out of the bottom of the bag, and the unmistakable smell of decomposition hits his nostrils. Have you ever smelled death?
Yeah. Once. Can I tell you this story? Oh my god, it was so gross. I have never smelled like death like that, like a person. But basically, I worked in a pub, okay? Mm-hmm. And there was a problem with mice.
Oh,
and so they put down mouse poison, whatever it is, to kill the mice. But then they realised that, like, the company that came in and did it, we then couldn't get to the places where they'd put the poison. So the mouse was dying behind the warm side of the fridge. You know, like at the back of fridges, hot air comes out of it. Mm-hmm. So we had a crazy busy Friday night, and the mouse was just like the dead mouse was essentially heating up. And all you could smell was this rotting, and it was weeks until somebody came in and did it.
Yeah. That is disgusting.
Anyway. What were you saying?
Smell of decomposition.
Have you ever smelled? Yeah, okay. Right.
So he knew immediately what was in this bag. Detective Sergeant Paul Colgan is soon on the scene. He cuts open the bag and reveals a naked body of an adult male. At first, they thought his arms and legs must be broken because of how tightly he was curled up.
Contorted he was, yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't. There were no broken bones. He was just curled up tightly in the fetal position in this bag. And inside the bag with him was the key to the padlock.
This is some circus stuff.
This is serious. This was confirmed to be Gareth Williams. He was around 5'7" and was described to have a small but muscular build. He was like a cyclist, so I always think of them as quite slim, you know? And so he would have been able to fit in the bag. It was just whether or not he got in there on his own accord or if someone put him in there. As I said...
Not said anything.
The flat was completely spotless, so there was no sign of a struggle, and there was also no sign of forced entry. So if there had been someone else there with him, did Gareth let them in? Did he know them? And also, why would he have just then got into the bag because they told him to? Go on, question time.
The blood, that red substance, the blood, if you... No broken bones, you've contorted yourself into this bag. Where is this blood coming from?
Well, he's decomposing.
So what? I don't understand what happens. So you start bleeding when you decompose?
Well, your body just turns to like mush. It starts breaking down. You don't just stay a human. Like, because of the heat and because the heat was on so high and he was in a bag in a confined space, there are so many chemical processes going on that your body just starts breaking down, and yeah, your blood and then all of your flesh starts to decompose, and it all just turns into a.
So it's turning into liquid.
Did you not know anything about human decomposition?
I did, but when you said blood, I was imagining like thick, gloopy blood from a wound, whereas decomposition is more like watery, thinner, mushy. It's not all blood, is it? I was saying, like, is there a head injury? Is there a open throat or anything like that?
Well, I didn't say blood dripped out the bottom. I said red liquid. So listen carefully, Catherine.
I do listen, and then I make up stories in my own head, so I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, understood. So it's not blood, it's human mush.
Human fluids. Exactly. Obviously,
Fluids.
as he was working for MI6, they also had to consider whether or not this was a professional hit. But before the investigators on the scene even had time to think about these theories, the Secret Intelligence Service turn up and pretty much tell them they're no longer needed and they're taken over. Which, like, isn't this a conflict of interest? No, really? I feel like this is a conflict of interest because they have no idea. It could have been someone in MI6 who did this.
But then it's for a reason, so we got to keep it shh.
Oh, that's what we're going with now. Surely he still has every right, his family have every right to find out what happened to him. Like, he still didn't need to die.
No, I agree. However, MI6, they must have their own kind of investigation department that deals with things like this.
Well, yeah, exactly. So why kill him?
He was killed. No. I don't mean kill him. I thought you were talking about, like, if he was taken out by another Secret Service, or if it was an assassination from another country or something like that, then surely it would be the job of the Secret Service to find that out, not just regular police. The Secret Service are going to be the ones who understand a motive. Like, they're going to be the ones who know what he was working on. They're going to be the ones that know who he dealt with. Did he have, all that kind of stuff. Whereas the police can hardly go and start interviewing international criminals.
Well, no, but I feel like with the Secret Service, like, I don't know, the sense that I've got from looking into this case, it doesn't seem like they were interested in finding out what happened to him. They almost only cared about making sure that it wasn't one of them, that killed them. And so it wasn't about trying to find answers. Okay. It was trying to rule something out instead, trying to clear their own name rather than actually doing it.
That's not the angle I was coming at it from. I was coming at it from,
I understand, yeah.
They would have the intel. I have another question. What's the difference between
Go on.
MI5, MI6 and MI7?
Is there an
Does
MI7?
MI7 exist?
No.
There is in James Bond, I think.
No, there's not. No. He's 007, but there's no MI7.
They have it in films, and I just bought into it. What's the difference between MI5 and MI6?
MI5 is the UK, and MI6 deals with international stuff as well.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Was there ever like an MI1, 2, 3, and 4?
MI7 was a branch of the British War Office's Directorate of Military Intelligence.
I knew it!
In the First World War.
So that's why I know about it.
And then it was reformed for the Second World War.
I don't give myself enough credit sometimes for how clever I am. Soon as you questioned me, I doubted myself.
I think that you give yourself enough credit.
Soon as you questioned me, I was like, Rosie must be right, she's cleverer than me.
Plenty of credit. So yes, he works for the international one. Not the war one. Not the UK one. The international military.
But we're in 2010, so we're not in the First or Second World War anyway.
Or not in the wars, exactly.
She didn't the days.
So as I said about the conflict of interest, whether or not it was a conflict of interest that Secret Service were taking over, there were suspicions of them removing evidence or even planting evidence to kind of like set the narrative. Set the narrative?
Mm-hmm.
Could you say narrator? So why wouldn't you say narrative? But it makes sense. Narrative.
You're mad at me like I questioned you. I know what you're saying. Do you know I've been listening to some of our episodes and I make mistakes and you never pull me up on it? I just look like such a donkey. And you're like, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think you do make that many mistakes.
I do. I said arrested instead of kidnapped. And we just went with it. I was like, once she was arrested, and then when I went back to edit, I was like, she wasn't arrested, she was freaking kidnapped. Don't remember what we were talking about now.
Huh. Interesting. Very
So anyway, carry on with your narrative.
Yes, so with suspicions of them removing evidence or even planting the evidence just to kind of maybe set a narrative around set a narrative around.
I thought you were doing it as a joke because I did it.
You said it. You killed me. You set me up for that one, you bitch. Right. To set a narrative, but nothing was ever set in stone a bit about this, and obviously those are quite heavy accusations. So it's just the fact that you have no idea what they were doing when they were processing this crime scene. You know, you don't know if they were collecting evidence. You don't know if they were cleaning up. There was no record of that British police had access to tell them what they were doing. But all we know that Scotland Yard are only allowed to re-enter the crime scene once these agents have finished, and once they're allowed access, they barely find anything. They said that forensically, this crime scene was pretty clean. Like, Secret Service had even removed the front door and taken it away with them. What are they supposed to do with this? But then,
check all the doorknobs for fingerprints. Sir, the doors are gone.
The doorknobs are gone.
Okay.
So some of the things that they did find, whether or not they were relevant, too soon to tell, but they found unidentified fragments of DNA on the padlock and the bag zippers. There was Gareth's blood outside of the bag, not the drippage that was coming, the fluids when they picked up.
Do you mean on the outside of the bag or outside, like in the bathtub kind of area?
It just says outside. The bag. Some unidentified DNA on a towel in his kitchen. A 2 millimeter piece of hair on Gareth's hand containing unidentified DNA. 2 millimeter. That's like that big. And they found that. Crazy.
When they say unidentified, are they meaning it could be Gareth's, or are they meaning this is not Gareth's?
This is meaning it's not Gareth's and they don't know whose it is.
Yeah.
An iPhone that had been factory reset, as well as, I think, 2 or 3 SIM cards next to it. A semen stain on the floor in the bathroom. A spot of someone else's blood was found in the communal hallway, but it's a communal hallway, so it wasn't necessarily to do with this investigation. An old and very small spot of Gareth's blood, which could have been from a car, and it was found on the carpet near the stairs. But they say old. If he hasn't been seen for a week, then could it be old in relation to that timeline? You know, Who knows? 2 partial shoe prints that were detected in his kitchen, but they were too partial to figure out size or whether or not they could have been Gareth's shoe prints. And also that his door had been locked from the outside. So, yeah, weird.
Okay.
Jackie Sabir is the lead detective on the case. She has an excellent...
S-A-B-I-R.
S-E-B-I-R-E.
Say it again?
Sabir. S-E-B-I-R-E. Sabir?
Sabir. Yeah, no, Sabir. I just needed to visualise it. Go on.
She has an excellent track record and has been a part of the force since 1992 and pretty much a homicide investigator the whole time.
Legend.
But obviously this is going to be quite a tricky case. So for starters, Jackie nor any of the people within her team are allowed direct access to anyone at MI6.
Right.
So they can't know what Gareth was working on, who he was working with. They can't speak directly to any of his colleagues or take sworn statements. And that's obviously a huge part of any investigation, being able to look at someone in the eye, read body language when they're telling their story, just to be able to tell if they're actually telling the truth. That's like part of being a detective, you know? But instead they have to go through another department of the police called SO15, which basically is a branch of the police that have a higher security clearance, so they can interact with and question MI6. So Jackie and her team have to write down all of the questions, give them to SO15, and then they'll ask the agents of MI6 with their line managers present. So, I mean...
Do they want this solved?
Yeah, tell me about it. Wait. They will then write down all of their answers after the interview. So they can't write down word for word or do a recording of what they said during the interview. They have to they have to ask all their questions, memorize it all, and then write their notes down afterwards, and then send it back to Jackie's team fully anonymized, so she has no idea who any of the information came from. But obviously this could miss so much. Like, there's nuances, little details that they might not pick up on, or they might not remember to write down. And even if SO15 don't mean to hold anything back, they have complete power over what information Jackie Sabir and her team get or don't get, you know? But even still, Jackie Sabir stays positive, and instead she begins asking the public for help. Have they seen anything in the area? Did they have any contact with him in those days before his death? And to jog people's memories, she releases some CCTV images of Gareth just in those few days before.
I feel like this is pointless. Yeah. I know, like, it's so... There's no way that this is a random attack on a person. This is obviously linked to what he does. And so if they are either international or being hidden by MI6, yeah. It's hardly a burglary gone wrong, is it? Also, I hate that term.
Yeah, I know. I know you do. But so she releases these CCTV pictures of Gareth from the days before his death. On the 15th of August, there are pictures of him wearing a red shirt and chinos, and he's shopping in Knightsbridge. He looks super casual, at ease. He's just on a normal day going to the shops. He stops in at Harrods and pick up some peppered steaks.
Chinos and red shirt. Mm-hmm. So 2010.
Oh, yeah. But a fancy guy picking up his steaks in Harrods. Like, this guy was doing well. They then put out an appeal for a Mediterranean couple that was seen in the communal areas of Gareth's block of flats on an undisclosed day in June or July. None of the residents... Yeah, tell me about it. None of the residents within that block remember buzzing them in or even recognise seeing them. So it's assumed that they came to visit Gareth, but no direct connection that we are aware of has been made between this Mediterranean couple. But they released this e-fit. It's a good-looking couple. They've got thick, dark hair. They're super young, probably like late 20s, early 30s. But, I mean, also just generic people, you know? For me, I don't recognise them, but I feel like you could also see a lot of people in them at the same time. But even to this day, no one ever comes forward claiming to know these people or to be those people, so they have no idea if there's any real connection there. Brilliant. Meanwhile, Gareth's autopsy. I think that was Allsop sheet was the technical term for that. Gareth's autopsy shows no obvious signs of cause of death. Toxicology is inconclusive. There are no signs of alcohol or drugs and no signs that he was poisoned. However, the pathologist determined that his time of death was somewhere in the early hours of Monday, 17th of August. And if his body... Yes, Catherine?
How long had he been missing for on Monday the 17th of August? 17th of August?
Well, he would have gone to work on the Friday. Oh, no, well, he was on holiday, I think he was, and he'd got back a couple of days before, so he was supposed to be going back to work on Monday.
So the Monday, he didn't show up?
Yeah.
And then they think he died that day, so
that morning.
Yeah, so it's not like, okay, he was being held hostage for a week and then died 12 hours before they got in there. Okay, and maybe the holiday is why they didn't stress about it so quickly. Maybe they're like, oh, we got our dates wrong.
In a place like MI6, you think they would have got their dates wrong?
I saw a job for MI5 admin being advertised on Indeed, and they pay about 23 grand a year. You're not getting anyone working for MI5 on 23 grand a year who is going to be like...
Okay, but not admin, but their line manager, like... if you had someone, if you're a manager and
I'm just giving benefit of the
no,
doubt.
no,
Why did you not
no,
call for
no,
a week?
no benefit of
Think
the
about it.
doubt. No,
Monday to
you
Monday is an
think
extra
about
week,
it.
and then
You
8.
think about it. If you if you have a person who's supposed to be coming into work, you know that they've been off for 2 weeks, and you say, "Yep, Catherine's back on Monday," and then they don't show up on Monday, and then you're thinking, wait, did I get my dates wrong? Do you just let it slip, or do you go and check the holiday request to make sure, and the rota to make sure that they're supposed to be in that day?
Depends how busy I am, to be honest.
No, it doesn't. That's literally your responsibility. Your responsibility is
Okay, I'm just saying,
no.
I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying it could be a reason as
no.
to why that happened.
No. If he died in the early hours of Monday, 17th of August, and if his body was found a week later on the 23rd, if you remember that the heating was on fully, this would heat up the speed of decomposition. And so
speed up.
That's what I said, no?
On.
This would
You
speed
said heat up.
Oh yeah, this was
decomposition.
The heat speeds up the rate of decomposition, basic science, you know. And so that's all kind of like in line with that timeline. But then also, because of that quite advanced state of decomposition, it meant that it was hard for them to do any meaningful tests, because obviously as your body breaks down, you can't take blood samples anymore. There's only so many things that you can test for, because a lot of alcohol, like a lot of drugs, all of the toxins, they break down. They have half-lives, you know. But they
have
just
what?
I don't know if half-lives are for.
Rosie did a degree in like zoology and biology and science stuff.
Yeah, so the half-life of a drug is the time it takes for the amount of a drug's active substance in your body to reduce by half. And so it will half, if it has a half-life of like 3 days, then it'll half in 3 days, and then it'll half again in 3 days, kind of thing.
Does that mean, so you said with the heat it's sped up, does that mean that if a person is cold, like frozen or refrigerated,
then it slows down?
That you can do the toxicology report and blood tests for longer?
I don't know about the toxicology and blood reports, to be fair, but obviously they do. It preserves a lot. It preserves a lot more when they're cold. Yeah, exactly. But they decide that the cause of death was most likely carbon dioxide suffocation. So he was in that bag, ran out of oxygen, essentially. With so many unanswered questions, they decide to speak to Gareth's family. What was he like? Who were his friends? Did he have a girlfriend? What did he like doing? So Gareth grew up in the small seaside village of Valley in Wales.
Aww.
It was super small. The population was...
I want to go to Wales.
2,361 people.
Whoa.
And imagine moving from a place like that where you grew up to moving to London, Pimlico, central London. That's a crazy change. It must... And not only that...
You know that's the size of like a large school.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me about it. And so imagine like being in a village like that, living in a village like that, and everybody knows everyone. Like you live around the corner from your granddad, and like you walk down the street and everybody knows your name, kind of thing. And then you move to London, not only working for a place like MI6, where secrecy is a main aspect of your job, it must have been incredibly isolating, you know, like people considering whether or not he could have been depressed, whether he had other stuff going on that he didn't tell anyone about. But anyway, he was crazy intelligent.
But that's not going to be a way that he's killed himself, is it?
That's something that people were considering, you know, they're considering everything. He was
crazy. That is a very thingy. Like,
I mean, somebody basically said, there was a detective that said, if you can imagine it, then we are investigating it. Because...
Oh, I believe that. I understand that. But I think, I can't imagine that in I don't know. So that's a very well thought out, executed suicide. It seems a bit unnecessary.
Well, yeah, but this is
Getting the door locked from the outside.
We will.
Padlocking yourself in.
We will come back to it. We'll come back to it. So yes, crazy intelligent. He passed his maths GCSE when he was 10 years old, when we usually do it at 16. Sorry. What did you get in your maths GCSE?
An A and a B.
Okay, good. He got straight A's in his A-level maths and computer science when he was 13, and that's usually done when we're 18. He attended university part-time and graduated from uni with a first-class honours degree in maths when he was 17. So he was attending university from the ages of like 13 through 17.
Sounds like young Sheldon.
Yes, exactly. It really does. We're usually 21 by the time that we graduate from university. And at 18, he started his PhD in maths, which is like just wild. One of his professors said that he had one of the fastest minds that he had ever met. Like, it was just crazy how intelligent he was. At 21, he was scouted by and starts working for an agency called GCHQ, which is the UK's Intelligence, Security and Cyber Agency. So they're not quite part of MI6, but it's all that same kind of intelligence and security kind of idea. And then in 2009, he starts working for MI6. What is the word when it's like secondment? So GCHQ basically
he's seconded to MI6.
Yeah, exactly. So he's there on loan essentially, but he didn't enjoy MI6 at all. This was when he moved to London. So when he was working for GCHQ, he was based in Cheltenham, which is a little way out of London. It's a little bit more quiet, not as much of the hustle and bustle. But then when he started working for MI6, he had to move back. He had to move into London. And he didn't enjoy the culture. It was like very much office culture. It was all like going out thirsty Thursdays and going out on the lash and lads. Like, he just didn't enjoy working for MI6 at all. And he was hoping to be able to move back to GCHQ and move back to Cheltenham. Literally the following week after he died was when he was supposed to be going back to GCHQ.
Is Cheltenham where the races are?
Yeah.
Cheltenham races. I'm sure there's races.
Oh yeah, no, it is definitely where the races are. But it's kind of like just past the Cotswolds.
Oh, so it's quite a way out. Cotswolds are beautiful.
Oh, beautiful, yeah, exactly. It's like a little bit north of Bath. So, yeah, a nice, much nicer, like more quiet town area.
Love to live somewhere like that.
So his sister Kerry, she told the police officers that his work involved intercepting and analysing electronic communications from around the world. And it basically allowed him to show off how good he was at maths, which was ideal for him because he loved maths and he loved computers and he loved tech. And although they were not specifically told, the police think that he may have been involved in cryptography and crypto analysis just because of his skill set, which means that he was both a code breaker and a code maker, able to work in cyber protection and cyber infiltration. So everything online, he was like very much like a computer
tech guy.
Whiz. Exactly. Yeah, doing anything that involved tech, crypto clues, like codes, maths. He was your guy. He was obviously an incredibly intelligent guy and an asset to any team that he was a part of.
And was he doing the same job for both GCHQ and for MI6?
It doesn't specify. There was very little information about exactly what he was doing. Surprise. But then what about his personal life?
I also found it really odd that they said that the phone was factory reset, because I'm sure even with a factory reset, MI6 would be able to get stuff off of it.
I said that about like 5 minutes ago.
No, you didn't.
I did not say that recently.
Oh, I know. Oh, sorry about the phone. I know, sorry, my brain took a while to process it.
Can you keep up?
I am. I'm keeping up. I just was thinking a tech guy would know that factory resetting your phone is not foolproof. But then also, why have we not heard anything about the factory resetting of the phone and actually, we found this?
We will. Well, they couldn't find anything on the factory reset phone, even when they did do their extensive searches. They couldn't find anything, so they couldn't find any signal or data or messages, like absolutely nothing. So it obviously was done very well, but they also couldn't discover whether it was done there or whether it was done remotely. So someone who was like a good hacker could have hacked into his phone and done it from like the other side of the world, but they had no way of proving that. So that's all there is on the phone. We have no idea. So they considered his personal life, and Kerry said that he didn't have a girlfriend that she knew of, and he was quite close with his sister. He took her and her husband out for lunches. They spoke on a regular basis. Like,
where did Kerry live? Did she live back home in Wales?
In Wales, yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. But no, he was quite close with her, and they stayed in touch. But if he didn't have a girlfriend, then the police started to question some of the other things that they found in his flat. They found £20,000 worth of designer women's clothes. So this is like Stella McCartney, Louboutins, like really high-end stuff. They had makeup, lots of makeup, most of which was in its original packaging, multiple wigs, and receipts to show he'd been buying it all over a 2-year period. Now, because he was a slim build, he could have probably fit into the clothes that he had bought, but none of it seemed to have been worn. And it was more likely it would have better fit his sister than him, granted. And his sister thinks that he had bought it all as gifts, because it wasn't out of the ordinary for him to gift his sister and his friends quite extravagant designer gifts. Like, he'd bought his one of his friends a Balenciaga shirt and Armani furs and all sorts, like spending lots of money on his friends and his sister, sorry. And so
I need better friends.
Tell me about it. I need a friend in MI6. And so it wouldn't have been weird for them to be receiving them at a later date. But
I got you.
I am literally the best friend that anyone could ever hope
That's
for.
fine, but we're also both poor, so I don't know why you're arguing with me about that. We're so poor.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think we bought each other a birthday present in about 20 years.
Not since my mum was buying it for you.
Yeah. Literally.
I'm going to buy you something for your 30th, though.
Well, don't, because I didn't buy anything for your 30th.
Maybe I just love you more.
Maybe. I'd believe it.
Also, I have the joy of having a child, so anything he makes is adorable.
No. Definitely not. Definitely not.
I already know what I'm getting you for your 30th, so it's fine.
What are you getting me?
I'm not telling you.
Rude. But then also, if they were gifts, why had he been buying them over a 2-year period? Like, would you not just be buying something and then gifting it, and then buying something and then gifting it? Like, there were £20,000.
Not things like that. Not things like that. You can do it. You can imagine it in the sales. Like, sometimes you buy loads in the sales then, and then for Christmas it's like you've got things for various people, but not if you're buying full price Stella McCartney and Balenciaga and all of that. No. That sister must be so mad as well, because I bet they didn't let her have it. I bet after he died, they were this is going into an evidence locker, and she was like, hold on. You know, that foundation is exactly my
shade. Yeah.
I don't want it to sit in there.
But anyway, as soon as this information was leaked, the news outlets went crazy with it. You know, it wasn't all of a sudden they were leaking information about his search history of bondage websites to say that they were saying how he'd visited a drag show the week before, and everything meant that he was a secret transvestite and he could have been killed by a gay lover. Like, they really blew all of this up to make it seem as if this was the narrative behind his death. And it was like, this is not true. This is not real. But it went even further, and they were talking about how he would frequently pay for male escorts, that he would take cocaine, had S&M paraphernalia around his house, but absolutely none of this was true. Like, yes, okay, so he did
Even
visit
if it
bondage
was.
sites, and yes, he did go to a drag show, and maybe he was a secret transvestite, but how does this, how they would, it was as if they were trying to use this information to smear his name, but this didn't mean that there was any reasoning behind his death. Like, it was just so, it wasn't fair, you know? Like, why be using this to try and paint him in a bad light
And
when it
also,
doesn't mean anything like that?
they've clearly never seen a drag show, because
Yeah.
you're going to a drag show because they are so fun.
Yeah.
You are not. It's back to that thing I said. People who are into S&M and whatever, it is consensual and safe, and even if, like, no matter what your sexuality, whatever all of those things are, too often is it used to explain a death. And it's, so what if he got male escorts? I know you said he didn't, but even if he had, so what?
Yeah.
Why is male escort?
So what?
Because if it was a female escort, they wouldn't be saying, oh, maybe she tied him up and put him in a bag.
No,
it's still that underlying homophobia.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, 100%.
That exists.
So frustrating. There was a lot going around about his personal life, and about how he wasn't being fully honest with his family and with the people at his work, that perhaps he didn't want to tell his colleagues about these interests, that maybe he did want to dress up as a woman sometimes, but he didn't want to tell people about it because what?
I'm sorry, can you imagine? You've literally just explained how you have that he didn't like being at MI6. There's this really, like, laddie culture that he doesn't feel like he fits in. He comes from this tiny little area in Wales that potentially you don't have any privacy and everyone knows your name. And they're like, oh, he didn't tell us that he liked going to drag brunch.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you surprised?
Tell me about it. Tell
Glenda.
Me about it. But aside from this, they also found that he had secretly completed 2 courses in fashion design at a local college. But his tutor had said that he seemed nervous and he didn't want any of his friends to know he was completing the courses. Like, he was always super apologetic about things and he was just, like, really shy. But could that be the reason he owned all of these women's clothes? Because he genuinely just had
an passion.
Yeah, and a passion for fashion. And, I mean, his life as a spy for MI6 had pretty much been chosen for him, you know? Like, GCHQ scouted him and offered him a job. But what if his passion was actually fashion and he never actually wanted this career as being some maths whiz genius?
Are you rhyming on purpose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Passion for fashion.
I know. That's so gross. Go on.
I know. And to add to this, they had also found a cutting of a newspaper in his apartment titled Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And one of these top regrets listed was the regret of not having the courage to live a life true to myself, express my feelings, and let myself be happier. Be right back, I'm crying. Like, that's so sad. Like, for me...
She's obviously joking. She doesn't cry. She's actually dead inside.
I am dead inside.
Like she's crying to you.
I'm actually an awful human being. I'm sorry. But, like, that one got me. That one got me in the feels. Okay, so let's go over all of these theories that are going around. So some of these theories, they first of all have to consider whether or not he was alone when he died. So some of these theories involve him being by himself, and some of these theories involve a third party. So the simplest explanation that they considered, suicide. Like I said, you get into the bag, he knows that he's going to die from asphyxiation, but surely there are easier ways to kill yourself. Like, that is not, if I was suicidal, I would not think, okay, I'm just going to crawl into a bag in my bathtub and wait for somebody to find me, you know? Like, it's just not going to happen. Although his sister did say that he'd been in good spirits when she'd spoken to him a couple of weeks before, we could never actually know what his mental state was like in those days before, the moments before his death. But still, that was not really...
Nope.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. Don't buy it.
Yeah, not many people bought that one either.
Yeah.
Another theory was that he died accidentally while performing an autoerotic act involving bondage and self-asphyxiation. So that's why he was naked, he was getting in the bag, it was all like he was trying new things. But he was such an intelligent guy, and his sister described him as the type of person that he analyzes the risks in everything that he does. So surely with that, he would have calculated the risks. He would have known exactly what it meant to be getting into that bag, because they said that the size of the bag and the position that he was in, he would have died within 3 minutes once he was in that bag. So it's not as if you would have had much time to really enjoy any pleasure out of it.
And padlock yourself in.
Exactly, and then padlock yourself in, and then not give yourself any means of an escape. Like, why not take a knife in there so you could, cut a hole out and get yourself out of it? Like,
surely there's better ways to, I don't really know, but to asphyxiate yourself for pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And another thing is that although yes, okay, he had looked up BDSM and he was into bondage, there weren't any records of him searching claustrophilia, which is
That's not what?
Claustrophilia is like the one, like this, when you
want to be...
Well, yeah, you want to be enclosed. Like, you find it, like, sexy to be in an enclosed space. I can't remember what that's like a kink, right?
I have claustrophobia.
Well, yeah, but the claustrophilia is like the opposite of that when you love it. But yeah, just because he was into bondage and BDSM, it doesn't automatically means that he's going to put himself into a bag. There are so many different levels of kink. There are so many different types that you can't just assume that because they have one, he's going to be into all of them.
He didn't do this. He did not do that.
Another one is that he was training in escapology. But same again.
He would have if you're training, you know that you are not good at it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have a backup option.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the same as again, like you said, you would have some kind of a means of escape. So why not have a knife in there if something were to go wrong? Because 3 minutes, like you only have 3 minutes to put yourself in a bag, shut the lock, and then be able to get yourself out again. Like, he would have been able to calculate that. He's not stupid. He would have been able to calculate the cubic. No, don't do that. The cubic area of the bag and how much oxygen he would have had. Like, he would have calculated that.
Can I tell you what I think happened?
Can I just finish this story about this apology? But Gareth had recently been cleared for active deployment in the field. So was he trying to be prepared if he were to get into a sticky situation? That wasn't a working theory. Catherine, go on, tell me what happened.
You combined the word Gareth and theory and you called him Garethy.
Okay, but what happened?
No, sorry, I was not giving you my theory. I thought you didn't want that.
Oh, okay.
I was just telling you called him Garethy.
I actually quit. I quit. You're not going to hear the rest of this story. I'm sorry, we're done. We're done here.
No, carry on. You can't give up on me. We're too far gone.
Are we? Are we too far gone?
Yeah, we're nearly 27 years into this, so come on. Come on. She's so mad.
I need a minute.
Look at your mad little face.
You're not helping. You know that, right?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
But then they were considering, was the key inside the bag his means of escape? Did they have that? Did he have the key in the bag to try and to?
So was it in there?
Yeah, the key was inside the bag.
Oh.
But yeah, was this him trying? Was this his way of getting out? But then the padlock was on the outside of the bag, and the zips were together. Like, How would he have got his little fingers out with the key and
Through
then
the little gap.
and to then angle the padlock in a way that you would be able to get it? It just, for me, it just doesn't make sense. All of these theories obviously meant that he was alone. But then if he was alone, then why were there no fingerprints? There were no palm prints on the bathtub. Like, if you consider that you're getting into the bath, you lower yourself down on the bathtub,
obviously,
to get in. There was like no DNA or fingerprints or palm prints. There was no, his fingerprints weren't on the padlock or on the zippers or even on the Velcro handles which were fastened. There was nothing. There was no footprints within the bathroom. If he was barefoot, there would have been footprints on the floor or impressions. Go on.
Did MI6 get rid of it all?
Exactly. But this is the thing, you just don't know. There was like absolutely nothing. But you'd think that there would have been DNA somewhere. And if MI6 did try and get rid of it all, then why was there still some unidentified DNA at the thing?
And why would MI6 cover it up if he'd done it to himself? The only reason MI6 would cover it up is if somebody else had done it.
Exactly. And all of this as well, like you had said before, how was the door locked from the outside if he had actually done it himself? Like, how would that have been possible? Okay, so now, what if somebody had been there with him? There was obviously unidentified DNA on the padlock and the zippers, as well as on a towel down in the kitchen. And there was that one tiny little 2mm piece of hair that was found in the bag with him. So the first of these theories was that it was a professional hit, an assassin. It would explain that there was absolutely zero evidence because he either cleaned up after himself or he was so professional that he didn't leave any. But what would she? But what was the reason for this? Was it from like a foreign assassin? Was it a criminal gang that he'd been part of their investigation? The fact that the heating was turned up high, it obviously, like we said before, sped up the rate of decomposition. So is this because the person who did it knew that is what was going to happen, and so they did it on purpose to lose evidence, to destroy the evidence? Go on.
What about if it was MI6 knowing something, is that why it took them so long to call it in that he wasn't there?
Exactly, that's the thing. And so they left it there knowing that he was just like stewing in a bag. Poor guy.
And maybe it would be easier to hide things. Let's say, for example, I don't know, he was drugged and then placed in the bag. It would be easier to hide those things.
Yeah, exactly.
MI6, we don't think you're murderers. We think you're really good. Please don't come after us.
Yeah. Please protect our country. Yay!
I think we're going to need to emigrate after this.
Yeah,
it was not MI6. It was
It was definitely a.
I don't even know what MI6 is. I've not heard of it.
But then also, I mean, if it was an assassin and it wasn't a professional hit, whether it was like MI6 or someone from outside the country, there was a semen stain in the bathroom. Like, you couldn't imagine there being consensual sex between Gareth and a hitman before his death, you know? Like, it's just not, it's not going to happen.
But, is it not possible that is completely irrelevant? The semen stain?
It could have been completely irrelevant, but
it's completely
he was obviously such a clean freak. He was like close to OCD. You'd think that he would have, something like that would have been cleaned up, you know? If everything else was spotless, why would there just be that one patch?
I don't really understand what a semen stain is. Is it kind of like, is it like such a small thing here like this that's kind of, you can't see it, that has to be swabbed with a little cotton bud, or is it a big globule?
Honestly, I have no idea, but everything that I read just said semen stain, which made me think that it had been there a while and it was old. But again, if it was there for a while and old, why had he not cleaned it up? And second of all, I know, gross thing about semen stains, but that would be it's a good name for your next bad man. Semen stain. You know?
What?
You know how you give all of the bad men in your stories nicknames? Like Ketchup Stain.
Semen stain. No, it's too scientific.
It's too scientific. Okay, fine.
You could call him like a jizz towel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, cum rag.
Ew!
You can't say
Ew, David!
jizz towel and cum rag are like the same thing.
Ew, David! Boys are so gross.
Oh gosh.
Boys are actually disgusting.
They really are disgusting. But anyway, yeah, we don't actually know if there was any relevance behind this semen stain. Or, okay, so was it legitimately an accident and it was an act of BDSM gone wrong, and then the person who was there enjoying it with him fled in a panic, but then, like, why wouldn't he have just let him out of the bag? And second of all, we've already established that just because he was into BDSM does not mean that he would just want to get into a bag. Like,
and somebody who's done it accidentally and then panicked does not ensure that the entire place is scrubbed clean. There would be DNA and fingerprints.
And
if you panic and run out of that,
you know,
no, you're not mopping up, but leaving.
You're not going to leave get a Hoover around. Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not. But
renowned... And a Hoover is not a way to get rid of DNA anyway.
Well, no, exactly.
You can Hoover up DNA. Sorry.
True. But a renowned pathologist, Richard Shepherd, said that it was more likely...
I know him! He wrote a book called something, and it's all about what he saw as a pathologist.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, he does a TV show as well. I loved his book. What was it called?
You can't remember. Okay, let's move on. It was more likely that Gareth Williams was alive when he got into the bag due to the difficulty of arranging a corpse in the position that his body was found in. So whether he was alive but unconscious, or if he was just forced, like, get in the bag at gunpoint or something, I don't know. But that was kind of what was hinted at. But he wasn't. He's saying that he couldn't have been dead because it would have been quite difficult to get a corpse into that position. As I said before, the lead detective said that if you can imagine it, then we are investigating it. So they were looking into absolutely everything that they could with the cooperation of MI6 and SA-15. Though there wasn't much progress within the case until around 18 months after his death, when an inquest begins. The coroner was able to hear directly from MI6 agents, although they were anonymous and behind a screen. They also spoke to an expert in confined spaces, and his name was... That wasn't even the funny bit. The funny bit was that his name is Peter Folding.
No, it's not.
It's not spelt like folding. It's spelt with like FAU, but it's folding. Like, that's how you pronounce it.
What a lovely name.
Yeah, it's a beautiful name. And he found that although he could fit into an identical bag, he failed 300 times to close the padlock from inside the bag. Therefore,
he tested this.
Yeah, 300 times he tried to close the padlock in this bag.
Imagine if he'd succeeded. He'd have been like, guys, I did it. Guys?
And then 3 minutes later, he died.
Hello?
Tell me about
2 minutes 30, we're on the clock, hurry up.
Therefore, he concluded that he was either dead or unconscious when he was placed in the bag. Also, as we had said before, they reiterated that although he had searched BDSM on his computer, there was no evidence of him searching claustrophilia. So why would he have gotten into the bag by himself? Go on, question.
I don't think that it would be possible for somebody to put him in the bag and not leave more DNA on a naked body.
No, but the body, yeah, but the body wasn't there for them
the
to
decomposition.
Test. It was yeah, exactly. So there could have been ample DNA. They could have touched him, and their fingerprints could have been all over him. They could have spat on him, and it still wouldn't have been able to collect that because of how far gone.
I was thinking more like they held him at gunpoint and told him to get in.
Well, yeah, that too. That was kind of what I had been thinking as well.
Yeah.
But then, like, moving on with that heat was that the coroner noted how high the heating was. Like, in the middle of summer, he wouldn't have put that heating on that high himself. Like, unless he was doing, I don't know, hot yoga in his living room, which did not seem to be an interest of his. Why would he have had all of the windows shut, all of the curtains drawn, the heating on fully high in the middle of August?
That must
like
stink.
It was just not. He wouldn't have done
And even
that.
if he was going to inflict it on himself,
Mm.
why would you do that with the heating on? Do you know what I mean? Why would you want to speed up the decomposition of your body?
Mm-hmm.
If it was a suicide attempt, why would
Exactly.
you? No.
No, it just doesn't. It doesn't make sense. She also boldly stated that evidence must have been removed, implicating MI6, and it's basically saying that if it is implied that someone wasn't there at his death, then they must have removed his handprints and footprints from the bathtub, because if he was there alone, he would have left prints somewhere around, on the padlock, on the zippers, on the bag, on the bath. Like, they would have had handprints or footprints somewhere nearby. So she is basically saying, for sure, evidence has been removed. She also noted the phone that had been factory reset. Sure, this could have been done by Gareth before he died, or it could have been done by a third party. Again, we don't know. There was no way of notice.
Or it could have been done by MI6 when they went in.
Exactly. And it could have been done remotely. Like, they could have just been sitting in their office and tapped into his phone and done a reset. It was also during this inquest, so 18 months after his death and after the investigation had begun, that the detectives on his case discovered that SO15, remember that the branch exactly, yeah, middleman, yeah. They never handed over crucial evidence to them from MI6. There were 9 memory sticks found at his office, as well as a black holdall bag. And MI6 had looked them over and had given them to SO15, but apparently SO15 hadn't handed them over because they were assured that they were not relevant.
So MI6 had been like, yeah, that's all fine to share, and then SO15 had just thought, nah.
Well, it sounds like MI6 is, yeah, they're good to share, but there's nothing on them and they're not relevant. And I don't know if SO15 looked at them and said, yeah, no, you're right, nothing's relevant. But either way, SO15 just didn't think it was pertinent to the case for them to see any of this evidence. But it shouldn't be up to SO15 or MI6 whether or not it's relevant. No. Like, if
the fact of the matter is, this case is impossible to solve by the police because essentially too much is hidden from them. They're not at the top of the food chain in this situation, meaning that there's too many variables, there's too many unknowns.
It's like they're trying
with that level of secrecy. Yeah, it's just not possible.
They're trying to start a puzzle without any of the corner pieces,
Great analogy.
I know, right?
My grandma would have killed me if I tried to start a puzzle from the middle.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. Like, that's just not the way to do it at all. Like, nigh on impossible.
I want to do a puzzle. I'm going to do a puzzle.
But anyway, this coroner agrees that it was most likely carbon dioxide suffocation, and she rules out suicide or his own error. She basically concludes that the cause of his death was unnatural, unlikely to have been criminally mediated, and therefore he was killed unlawfully.
I like her. She's a smart pants.
Me too. After this inquest, people are mad. Like, the head of the British police are fuming about the breakdown of communication between MI6, SO15 and the Metropolitan Police, and they vow that from now on, going forward, it's going to be different. He wants to move forward with the investigation, looking into MI6 employees as suspects, which is what they should have been able to do from the start. Hogan Howe, the head of Homicide Command, is asked, how do they know, how can you be sure that they're going to cooperate? And he just, blatantly just says, because it's the law. Like, now he means business. Like, he's not fucking around anymore.
The law.
Exactly.
No.
Like, just
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you're
yeah.
part of MI6, it doesn't mean you can get away with murder.
And security clearance means you haven't done stuff in the past. It doesn't mean you don't have the capability of doing it in the future.
Exactly. Exactly. So the whole case is now based on the fact that he couldn't have been alone in that room, and because he couldn't have shut the bag by himself, right?
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, out of the woodwork comes some retired sergeant. I didn't even write his name down because I was like, annoyed. And he says, actually, it is possible to get yourself into that bag. And it is possible to shut that padlock because he did it himself. And he basically just closed the padlock from the outside, like basically squeezing it through the fabric. So instead of like trying to put your fingers through the zip to close it, he would just pinch it from the inside.
That's great. That's all well and good. But even so, it doesn't add up to the 900 other things that are inconsistent with him getting into a bag by himself.
I literally wrote, lol, fair enough. Although
we don't care.
It doesn't prove that Gareth did it himself. But it does put all of those findings at the inquest into not into question, but it makes you think, like, if they said that was impossible and now they're being told that it was possible, like, is there other things that we might be missing?
Yeah, but with this retired sergeant, okay, what controlled variables are there in this experiment? Is it the same padlock? Is it, if it's one of those teeny tiny padlocks,
is it the
same size? I can't close that teeny tiny padlock when I can see it and I'm like, here.
Yeah.
There's different levels of dexterity. There's so many things that you can't just say, I can do that, therefore you can. And
also the size of the person as well. Like, what are the chances that they're going to be exactly the same size and exactly the same weight and everything? And there was another person that said that they could do it, but I'm pretty sure I remember reading that it was like a 13-year-old girl that had done it, and it's like, she's not the same as a 31-year-old man. Like, it was just there was a lot.
Can we discourage 13-year-old girls from trying to replicate what could be accidental deaths of suffocation?
Yes. Oh my god, so annoying. So annoying. And then the next update I could find was in November 2013, where Detective Assistant Commissioner Martin Hewitt calls a press conference to share his findings from the last 3-year investigation. At this press conference, he says there is insufficient evidence to be definitive on the circumstances that led to Gareth's death, and they cannot prove the presence of a third party. Therefore, they must conclude that he most likely died alone.
Oh, well, he's an idiot.
Absolute idiot. But they cannot prove the presence of a third party, but they also
can't prove that he was alone, so...
Yeah, but then... What? But they cannot prove the presence of a third party, but it was also because that somebody has pointed a finger to say that evidence was removed. So of course you can't prove the presence of a third party, because there was no evidence to suggest that anyone was there, even the man that had actually died.
Any of this.
Exactly.
Yeah, there isn't enough evidence.
And this so fully contradicts the findings of the coroner's inquest in 2012. So what's true? Like, what is the...
What they want is that to then be... Okay, stop badgering us to look into it.
Yeah.
We don't have enough evidence to do that. MI6 won't cooperate to the level that we need in order for us to then have... They're not going to be given access to private or MI6, what's the word, like files and whatnot. So they basically have to admit, we can't do any more about this. Stop asking us about this.
Yeah.
And that's what that press conference is about.
Yeah, pretty much. But the family are not having any of it, and they believe the original inquest from the coroner. They believe that there's somebody else there, and they do not agree with this latest update. But I mean, they give them nothing, they don't try and change, they don't look more into it, they just kind of say our thoughts with the family, and that's the end of that. But that's not the end of that. In 2015, a Russian defector called Boris Charpikov... Boris, go on.
When you say defector, does that mean that he was a spy for Russia and then defected to Britain?
It doesn't specify that he was a spy, but I think he was a spy.
But it just means that he left Russia.
Yeah, he's left Russia. And he tells the Mirror newspaper that Moscow intelligence sources had confirmed to him, Boris, so that's why I assumed that he was a spy, had confirmed to him that Gareth was killed by an SVR assassin, which is like the modern day KGB. And he said that Russians had tried to blackmail Gareth to become a double agent, and he refused. And then he, at one point, revealed that he knew the identity of a Russian mole within GCHQ. And so then that's why they had to kill him, because obviously if he knew that there was a mole, then they had to kill him to protect the identity of their mole. But the police didn't take this seriously. They said there wasn't enough evidence to prove or disprove this theory, and that they just didn't believe this Boris bloke. In the same year, a story emerged that Gareth had illegally hacked secret information on former President Bill Clinton as a personal favour to a friend. It says that he had basically stolen a guest list to a party that the former president planned to attend, and gave the secret information to a friend who was also invited to the event. And so they think that this breach is what caused MI6 to kill him. But
again, you would more than likely just be arrested. But go on.
Exactly. But again,
because it's not like he has anything.
I didn't hear anything more about that. As forensic analysis improved, they did keep trying new methods to get DNA from evidence that was collected from his flat. Obviously, in 2010, that tiny piece of hair, they probably wouldn't have had the means to be able to get any meaningful DNA from that. But in the years after that, they definitely could. So they were calls to reopen the case and retest the evidence that had been collected. And in June 2021, the Met announced that they would, in fact, reopen the case. However, they received the findings in November 2023 and said no new DNA evidence was found and no further lines of inquiry were identified. And that's where we're at. So
who's to say MI6 didn't stop that though as well?
Well, that's the thing. There is not enough information on anything, really. And the fact that it was so clean, yeah, okay, there wasn't any evidence, but sometimes the absence of evidence is evidence, you know? It doesn't feel finished. It feels like there's a story here that's either being covered up or people just can't be bothered to look into. And I don't believe that he just got into a bag of his own accord. There has to be more of a story behind it. And maybe he did get into the bag, but
he got into the bag at gunpoint, or he got into the bag.
There had to have been a reason. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, maybe he was being blackmailed.
It seems to me like it's he gets into the bag at gunpoint, or like is forced into the bag, or is drugged into the bag. They pop the key in afterwards as like a torture kind of thing, you know. There's the key. Get yourself out.
Exactly.
And off they go, cleaning as they go, making sure that everything's, and that's it. And it leaves behind far less evidence than anything that involves blood or, you know, stabbing, shooting, anything like that. Can make a noise, can leave a struggle, can require a lot of cleanup. This is in the bathtub. All of those manky decomposition juices, that's going straight down the drain.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole flat looks untouched. Yeah, I think this was somebody who knew what they were doing. But I'm just a stupid podcaster who doesn't know anything, so please don't come after me. Especially
you, MI6, please don't. We love you. Appreciate everything you do for the country.
I don't even know where MI6 is.
My6, right?
Yeah, it's like Disney Channel, no?
My5. Channel 5?
Yeah.
But no, that's that.
Spy in a bag. Oh, I liked that one.
Spy in a bag. There was a lot to it. I liked that as well, actually. Yeah. Me.
I tried my best with that one. I'm glad you still love me afterwards.
It doesn't seem like you tried your best.
I genuinely do.
If anything,
it seems
like almost seems like you're getting worse. But anyway, goodbye.
All right, bye. Love you.
Okay, bye. Love you. Bye.